Hey there again, folks. Welcome back to my Let's Play of Remember 11, The Age of Infinity. And, let's just hop back in, shall we? Uni lowers his voice. Uni nods slightly. Still grasping the charm, he squeezes ever more tightly. I have a feeling I know the answer. As I drew closer, Uni shrank from me. That's kind of an answer. His face was wolfed in fear. Uni stood frozen. Fear and sorrow mingled on his face. After a long silence, from one small hand, he extended his index finger. Your index finger is your middle finger, right? Am I remembering that right? I think that's right. Is he flipping her the bird? Is he saying, I'm not gonna answer your questions or something like that? Is that what he's saying? I'm gonna feel very silly, but that's the pointer finger. Right? And that's the ring finger, correct? So yeah, that's the index finger. Of course, I'm sure he's just pointing. But why would he choose that one? It's like you have to like do like extra work, so I don't know why somebody would do it naturally to point that way. It's a lot easier to point. I'm not saying that it's not hard to do it, but it's just easier to do it that one, so that's what would be more natural. Overanalyzation. It happens more than proper pronunciation, apparently. And pointed straight at me. Shocker. In a tone as if declaring a death sentence, he said it. Really not shocking. I mean, it definitely looked like Keiko did it, but the way that everybody is treating Kokoro there is pretty obvious. Yeah. I don't know why Keiko was in the position that she was. Unless she was actually trying to defend herself against Satoru. It's actually... I can't remember how they... What her... Did she try to attack Satoru? I can't... Or... Kokoro? When the Zappity Zap happened? Can't remember. All of a sudden, snow was beating against my face with amazing force. And so much that I could barely scream. I was forced into a crouch. There was a terrible ringing in my ears. It was horribly painful. I couldn't hear very well. I heard a faint scream through the high-pitched ringing in my ears. Looked at my surroundings, but I could only see the darkness of the night stretching in every direction. From within that darkness, snow came to assault me again and again. The darkness and the snow hindered my vision, and I could barely even make out what was a few meters ahead of me. Even so, I was somehow able to perceive the faint beam of a flashlight. There, I was able to confirm the outlines of Yomogi, Mayuzumi, and Uni. The three of them were covered in thick clothes to protect them from the cold, covering their ears and writhing in agony. Unable to hear anything due to the ringing in my ears and the roaring of the storm, I couldn't make out anything they said. What are they doing out in the thing? Ready for the three of them? None of them have even noticed my voice. Everyone seemed to have their hands full dealing with themselves. Why am I? No, all of us. Why are we outside? Going out for a walk in the middle of a blizzard like this was an act of suicide. Hey guys, I know there's a blizzard outside, but I kind of want to go for a walk. Want to join me? I'm pretty sure that's not what happened. Yomogi should know that better than anyone. I clung to Yomogi. Yomogi finally noticed me. Because of the darkness, I was unable to see the expression on his face. Yomogi violently shook his head. The things we were saying didn't line up. Oh, did they get in touch with somebody? Yomogi shook off my hand and began walking. As if using up the last of her strength, the already weakened Mayuzumi began to stagger forward unsteadily, trying to follow Yomogi. Uni silently followed after them. I tried once more to pull Yomogi back. Chance, what was he saying? I don't know what happened, but it seems like Yomogi has completely lost it. I couldn't just let them continue on like this. From the side, Mayuzumi pushed me away. I stumbled and landed on my rear in the snow. I couldn't believe it. Even Yomogi had agreed with Mayuzumi's reckless view. Just what has happened? Apparently there was... Yomogi turned his back on me and continued advancing into the darkness. At this rate, I'll be left behind. Follow Yomogi. Apparently she missed some information. Somebody a helicopter? So I'm assuming that they, I don't know. Did the thing connect? Did the satellite phone or whatever? Did they get a connection and they got in touch with somebody for help? Or did they see something, hear something that made them think there was a helicopter in the area? I'm gonna follow them because, yeah. The fear of being left behind chilled me to the bone. Figures of Yomogi and the rest were far off. I stood up frantically and chased after them. My footing in the snow was bad, and on top of that, I had barely any strength left. Even though I had taken only a single step forward, it already felt like my knees were about to give. I couldn't put any strength into them. My body was heavy. My vision was dim. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stop my entire body from shivering. The feeling in my fingers and toes was already gone. The clothes I was wearing were already soaked. No matter how many layers you piled on, they were still made to be worn in a city after all. They weren't articles of clothing that could withstand the intensely cold environment. They were hardly carrying out their function to protect us from the cold. On the contrary, my body was slowly starting to cool. My coat, wet with snow, grew heavy and limited my mobility. A limitless amount of snow blew onto my exposed face, bringing a stinging pain with it. It was difficult to even open my eyes properly. But even so, I continued to walk. If I stop, I'll die. Barely managing to catch up with Yomogi and the rest, I had only a moment of relief before it happened. Our only means with which to tear through the darkness, the beam of the flashlight suddenly started shaking in a disorderly manner. As soon as I had that thought, it suddenly disappeared. Uni, who was walking ahead of me, had stopped and was now standing still. As the darkness had deprived me of my vision, I narrowly avoided running into her. What happened to Yomogi? Making my way past Uni and advancing a little further, I saw Yomogi crouching down. The flashlight was now sticking up out of the snow. I picked up the flashlight and shone the beam onto Yomogi. His breathing was terribly rough. It looked like he was on the verge of suffocating to death at any moment. His face was soaked with sweat and his eyes looked hollow. Yomogi answered with a raised hand. He shook his head back and forth lightly. I think he muttered something, but I wasn't able to catch most of it. I drew my ear closer to him. His words sounded extremely weak. It didn't look like he was just a bit tired at all. Yomogi's been pushed past the point of exhaustion as well. Seeing me hesitate, Yomogi grabbed onto my arm. With the appearance of someone near death, he desperately begged me. A helicopter? Was that why they continued marching recklessly? There's no way a helicopter could come in a snowstorm. There's no way it could fly. It's obvious that what Yomogi saw was just a hallucination. What if there really was one? If it were true, then this was the chance we've been wishing for. If we made contact with the helicopter, everyone would be saved. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? Oh, great. More choices. We're not going to leave anybody behind. I forcefully pulled Yomogi onto his feet. I leaned on my shoulder. Yomogi's body was heavy. If I continue to support him like this for a while, I might be the one to fall instead. Or is it? What I can do. At the very least, I can do it to atone. Even if I don't remember it myself, the debt that I owed for consuming our food pushed me on. I have to do it. What I'm able to do right now. Supporting Yomogi, I took a single step forward into the deep snow. Wonder how far we walked. It felt like we had been wandering inside the snowstorm for hours. But in reality, only about 10 minutes had probably passed. It's become impossible to tell time. No matter how long we walk, we may never reach our goal. Thinking of that bred anxiety in me. I had no idea it was this difficult to stand at the front and rustle. What? Okay. Stole my strength so quickly that I became sharply aware of it. Is that a phrase I'm not aware of or something? Front and rustle or something? Moreover, I was supporting Yomogi with my shoulder. As I was a very normal girl, I didn't have that much stamina. I was already short of breath, and even now I was tired enough that it felt like my knees would give out at any moment. Yomogi was single-mindedly continuing to repeat those words. Even though my consciousness was faint, I was still able to hear those words as if they were an illusion. Only the words spoken by Yomogi, "If we can reach the crash site, we'll be able to manage somehow," repeated in my mind as I absent-mindedly continued. Ugh. Words. Hard to say sometimes. Will I reach the crash site first, or will I fall dead of exhaustion first? My strength was already exhausted. What remained was willpower alone. When that willpower runs out, I'll die. I continued to mutter walk to myself with each step I took. Turned my head and quickly glanced behind me. Mayuzumi and Uni too continued to push forward in silence. I had been worried about Uni's condition for a while now. Sinbu staggering. I was going to say they haven't really mentioned too much about him. I was thinking he had been doing better than any of them. Of all of them, he's been the one that seems like he's been the one to complain the least. Like he's been almost like something like that before. But apparently he's not immune. Their backs hunched over and their heads hanging low, they walked unsteadily like zombies you'd see in a movie. The way they looked told me that it wouldn't be odd for them to fall over at any moment. And at that very moment, I thought that Uni's body rocked and swayed. Just like that, his strength deserted him and he collapsed onto the snow. For a moment, I couldn't understand what had happened. Still supporting Amogi, I sat him down and walked over to Uni. I absentmindedly stared at his small fallen body. I slowly pulled on Uni's hand. His hand was so cold it was as if it were frozen. No matter how much I pulled, his hand only hung there lifelessly. Even calling out to him was troubling to me. Shouldn't make fun of that question, since she's not fully. I mean, it's a pretty stressful situation, so it's understandable for somebody to ask such a bit of a silly question like, "Uni, are you dead? Please answer me if you're dead." Yeah, one of those things about where somebody nudges and you're like, "Hey, you sleeping? Hey, yo, you sleeping?" Only it would be normal for him to answer, "No, I was until you said that or something." The other me in my heart became angry at myself. What do you think you're doing, just dozing off like that? Hurry and save Uni. I fell to my knees as if collapsing and lifted Uni's body softly into my arms. That alone felt like, to me, like hard labor. Uni's eyes wouldn't open. I had thought he was dead, but he was still breathing laboriously. I slapped his cheek. Uni slightly opened his eyes. Between pants, he said, "Oh, great. We're going to have to make a decision." Standing where she was, Mayuzumi took a look over at Uni. Mayuzumi was wearing a blank expression. Her body was wavering back and forth, and her eyes reflected nothing. What was she saying? Leave who behind? Uni? Mayuzumi curved her lips in self-derision. Looked at Uni's face. In order to save myself, I had to abandon this child. Was that really alright? But I'm afraid to die. I don't want to die. In order to save the majority, you had to sacrifice the minority. That might be an act of courage in itself, but ooh. Well, it's a pretty obvious thing what I'm going to choose. Pretty obvious, but I think this is a pretty good stopping point. Plus, my cat is having a fit out in the hallway, and I need to go deal with her too. So, yeah, this is a good stopping point. Ooh, suspense. What's going to happen? They going to live? They going to die? Will somebody die? Will somebody manage to live? Who knows? We're going to have to find out next time. I do hope you folks enjoyed, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Farewell there.